All right, welcome back everybody. So today we're going to be doing the CrossFit Total II. It's a variation of the CrossFit Total, but it's a little more technical. So the movements are a 1 rep max on the clean, has to come off the ground. You can either power clean it or squat clean it. And then the bench press, and then the overhead squat. So those are the three movements. We're going to go in that order, 1 rep max on each of those. So a few little tips that I'd like to go over for the clean. Make sure you set your back. That's really, really important, and keep that bar in close. So set your back, keep the bar in close is all about setup and when you start the movement. And then the other thing is, I'd like to see you guys getting to full extension. That's really imperative because 99% of the power in the clean comes from the second pull, and that's from basically once the bar passes your knees to when you get those hips extended, that's where all the power comes from. And if you don't get that full extension, if you have what we call a muted hip, then you're not going to get much power and you're not going to get anywhere near what you're capable of getting. So, and the other thing about the full extension is when you get that full extension and get those hips open, that bar's going to travel in toward your frontal plane. And if it does that, then it can come up and land on the shelf that you've created with your shoulders in the rack position. So if you don't get full extension, the bar's not going to move as fast as you need it to. It's not going to come up as high as you want. And it's also not going to move into your frontal plane. So make sure you focus on that. Then on the bench press, I'd like to focus on a couple things. Make sure that when you do the bench press, you get those elbows tucked and keep the shoulders pinned back. That's really, really important. It does two things. It gives you more leverage, it can move more weight, and it also protects your shoulders. So bench press can be a relatively dangerous movement if your shoulders are moving around really loosely. So a powerlifting style deadlift, you'll notice shoulders are tucked and full elbow extension is the completion of the movement, but not this. We don't care about this part of the movement. In fact, we don't want that part of the movement. We want the shoulders tucked and then pop, pop. Okay? So when the elbows fully extend, it's a completed movement. Now the third lift is the overhead squat. The overhead squat is a difficult, technical, frustrating, challenging movement for many of us. It can be limiting both on strength, balance. Another thing that can limit it is your mobility, and that's probably the most common way that people are limited in the overhead squat is they don't have enough mobility, enough flexibility to get into the proper position to keep that bar up. So in order to keep that bar overhead without dumping it forward or backward, the key really is to keep the bar over your foot. So if the bar passes in front of the ball of your foot or behind your heel, then the major mass, the center of gravity, has now traveled beyond the base of support. So we want to keep it within that base of support. We're going to do that by having active shoulders. So we don't want the shoulders to drop down. We want always to try to touch our ears with our shoulders when that bar is overhead. The other thing is tight core. As soon as that core loosens up, that bar is going to start swimming around on you, and we don't want to see that happen. You're going to look like you're doing a hula dance or something and right before it falls. So make sure you're tight, make sure you got active shoulders, flare those knees out hard, and your coaches will give you more tips, but I think this is going to be a fun one. So I'll see you guys at the gym.